Kimchi, go in. Go in. Kimchi looking away. Kimchi looking between the lens. Kimchi looking at the Canon. Oh, Kimchi trying to lick the Canon lens. What you just saw, that close-up, shallow depth of field load in immersive 180 video, that was not possible before this lens. This is the Canon NEW RF 7-14mm Fisheye, the first single fisheye lens in Canon's lineup, officially supported by the EOS VR Utility to produce 180-degree immersive video. The kind you can look around in right now on Metadata, Apple Vision Pro, or YouTube on Galaxy XR. It's not 3D like the Canon dual fisheye lens, but the image quality is double or more. It works with camera that you probably already own, and the production workflow is dramatically simpler. But here's what the generic review video and Canon own documentation hasn't answered. What does the actual image quality compare to the $30,000 URSA Cine Immersive right there? Can you use the R5C, R5, or C50 open gate with this lens? What are the trade-offs if you push sensor coverage for full dome production for companies like Cosm or Sphere? Do you have to shoot RAW, or is there a simpler, even free workflow without paying for the EOS VR Utility? And how do you release it on YouTube VR or Apple Vision Pro so it actually play back correctly in 180? We will answer all of that in this video, and you'll see everything we teach in the 180-degree format itself, because we are probably the only creators ballsy enough on the internet to actually do that, even knowing that YouTube algorithm punish immersive content. Let's get into it. First, let's address the elephant in the room: image quality. At the time of recording, the new RF fisheye lens worked with the Canon R6 Mark III, R5C, R5, and R5 Mark II. No C50 support yet, but more on that later. So we are pairing the new RF fisheye lens on the R6 Mark III body, shooting open gate, Canon RAW, C-Log 2, and maximum resolution against the $30,000 URSA Cine Immersive. Both cameras have internal ND, so I match every setting exactly. In our other video right here, we found that the sharpness aperture on this lens is f8, so that's where we start. Now, let's let our star Kimchi do the talking. Pay attention to the chart in the center, color rendering, dynamic range, and noise. So Kimchi, in medium interview distance. Kimchi, go into the frame. Go into the frame. So Kimchi, in medium interview distance. Kimchi, go into the frame. Go into the frame. Side by side on the chart, the R6 Mark III is noticeably softer, and to be fair, it's not the lens, it's something sitting right in front of the sensor. Every camera has a filter called an optical low pass filter, or OLPF. It's a built-in blur. When fine detail in the scene line up with the pixel grip on your sensor, you get ugly rainbow pattern called moire. The OLPF softens that image just enough to prevent that. Less moire, but less sharpness. Every camera makes that trade-off differently. The R6 Mark III is a hybrid camera, built for photo and video, so Canon tuned that filter to handle moire across every situation. Safe choice, but you pay for it in the sharpness. The URSA Cine Immersive right there also has an OLPF. That surprised me, but that is where the engineering separates a $30,000 purposefully built immersive camera from a $2,500 hybrid body. The URSA Cine Immersive uses a completely different sensor design called RGBW instead of the standard Bayer pattern. Normal camera use red, green, blue pixel. Every single pixel only see one color, and the camera has to guess the rest. That guessing process softened the image. The URSA add white pixel into the pattern. This pixel capture pure brightness with no color filtering. No guessing. More real detail capture at the sensor level. On top of that, the URSA packed 8K per eye on the sensor with a 2.9 micron pixel pitch, compared to around 4 micron pitch on the Canon. Smaller pixel pack tightly mean moires get pushed to a frequency so fine that you can't really see it with human eye. And since we are delivering in 4K per eye finally, the 8K sensor is oversampling. That downscaling itself acts as another layer of anti-aliasing for free. All of that means the URSA's OLPF can be thinner, less blur needed, more sharpness preserved, more rate still controlled. But image quality is where the URSA's advantage stops. The RF fisheye lens right here has a wider field of view at 190 degrees. That means a clear 180 image without the second lens barrel in frame like you would get on a stereo rig. And it has adjustable aperture. Not having one is by far the biggest complaint on the URSA Cine Immersive. So, watch what happened when I open up the RF fisheye lens all the way to f2.8 and use the internal VND to match the same exposure. Here is our talent Kimchi again. So now, again, we're in. Canon now is at f2.8 and at Blackmagic, you can't change f-stop aperture, so let's go in again. Kimchi go in, Kimchi looking away, Kimchi looking between the lens, Kimchi looking at the Canon. Oh, Kimchi like the Canon lens. I'm sorry. Guys, Kimchi looking at Blackmagic. Okay, sorry, Kimchi take the lens. So it's gonna be weird. And then we'll step back. So to lose out of that veil. Okay, and step all the way back. In a long distance. See the difference? The URSA Cine Immersive has a minimal focal distance and a fixed aperture. So close up, Kimchi is blurry, and everything at distance is always sharp. The Canon RF fisheye lens focus right on Kimchi and let the background fall away. The autofocus tracks him no matter where he moves in the frame, and the background blur, that shallow depth of field, is doing something really important here. In cinema, we have always used to shallow depth of field to create a sense of depth in a 2D image. Your subject is sharp, the background blur, and your brain read that as depth. This brings the same technique into Immersive 180 for the first time ever. Now, you might ask, why not just shoot close-up in stereoscopic 3D instead? Because 3D in a headset at close range causes something called vergence-accommodation conflict. Your eye tries to converge on a close subject, but your lens focuses on at a screen depth in the screen at a screen distance. That mismatch is what makes people feel sick in XR. Shallow depth of field in a 2D 180 gives you the sense of depth without making your audience nauseous. For close-up immersive content, it's not just an alternative to 3D, it's more comfortable to watch. And this is the only lens that can do this properly for XR. The RF 7-14mm use Equidistant projection, which means when EOS VR Utility processes the footage, the geometric map correctly into XR headset. Other fisheye lenses like right here use eco-solid projection that don't unwrap right for the immersive playback, even with third-party software like Mystical VR or PT GUI. So this isn't just a fisheye lens you are forcing into an XR workflow. It is the first lens ever with a 1-to-1 monoscopic 180 VR pipeline. Now, if you like what you see and you're not ready to spend $30K on the URSA Cine Immersive, which Canon camera should you get to maximum this RF fisheye lens? And which shooting mode give you the best image quality? Let's find out with a real-world test.
Why would you ever handheld it 180?
You don't.
Yeah,
I need
why are
B-roll.
you filming me doing this?
I bought the C50 right here and borrowed a second set of R6 Mark III with a second set of RF fisheye lens to do this comparison. And at the time of this video, the C50 is not supported by the URSA VR Utility just yet. That said, I would be very surprised if Canon doesn't add the C50 support in the future update. Here's what surprised me though. The R6 Mark III, which is showing me right now, the image quality is very much matched the C series Canon camera. There's really no need to spend extra $1,000 because the letter C in front of the camera model. You are better off spending that money on a drop in VND filter or a CPL filter to control light. You will see a greater impact on image quality for good ND than a cinema manual. Don't make the same mistake as I did. Save yourself some money. But a lot of you own the R5 or R5C. Do you really need to upgrade to an open gate camera to take full advantage of the new fisheye lens? Especially since the R5C and R5 Mark II have full 8K 60 frames per second mode, which is really important for XR filmmaking. Let's take a look together. Okay, so this is f/1.160 ISO 800. Trying to be even exposure, nothing's clipping. That is raw LT in open gate. Now it's exact same setting, 1.160 f/8 ISO 800, but this is not open gate and it's 60 frames per second. Now it's again raw open gate, but we are not in full fisheye. We actually zoom in. When we f9.5, we actually see the fisheye is cropping the edge. So this is how custom or sphere we should, sphere by different camera, but custom, that's how custom we use the lens if you use it on a red camera. Why? We cut the edge of the sensor so we get a full, the massive sensor coverage. That's the highest sensor coverage, and then we still have a top and bottom back crop up. It's okay, we can VFX the top and bottom. So we cover it, or we can use sky patch top and bottom, so we don't worry about that. We use AI to do that part, but we get a larger image circle, larger sensor coverage. Larger sensor coverage should get you a better image quality right there. Okay, now it's not RAW anymore, it's MP4, but still open gate. Same setting, 1.160 f/8 800 ISO, MP4. How's MP4 look like? So put them side by side, we can clearly see XF-HEVC MP4 quality is the lowest with the smallest sensor coverage. Open gate and full frame quality is identical, and 10mm has the best image quality, but we are losing too much information top and bottom. Now we switch to the Canon R5C in the exact same setting, but in 8K RAW 60 frames per second. Pay attention to the top and bottom of the frame and see how much vertical coverage you lose when you are not shooting open gate. This is probably the only deciding factor for whether you upgrade to the R6 Mark III or C50. Now, if we zoom the lens closer to around 10mm again, we get the largest sensor coverage on the R5C, but with a big crop on the top and bottom. This crop is just too much compared to R6 Mark III. The increase of image quality is not worth it anymore. Now let's talk about the most important setting, RAW versus compressed. Compressed MP4 or XF-HEVC on any Canon camera has a pretty obvious quality difference compared to RAW, and you really see it when you are in an XR headset. The soft load is just too much for immersive application. Now, open gate versus not open gate. I think this has been a bit exaggerated by influencer marketing, at least for immersive filmmaking. The lost pixel in the top and bottom are not that horrible. I would rather use the R5C or R5 with 60 frames per second RAW. The quality is almost identical to the R6 Mark III, even though the R6 has a newer sensor. If you absolutely need that full vertical 190 degrees field of view and you want to see your tripod leg in the shot, then yes, R6 Mark III or C50 right here are the only two cameras you should get. But even Apple himself on the Apple Immersive video has missing top and bottom. So it's totally acceptable trade-off that can save you money. So here's my final recommendation. For the R6 Mark III, shoot open gate RAW at 7mm. For R5C, shoot 8K 60 frames per second RAW, also at 7mm. If you need the full vertical image circle, go with the R6 Mark III right here. If you need 60 frames per second and okay with losing some pixel top and bottom, go for the R5C. Okay, you have picked your camera and you have dialed in your camera setting. Now, how do you actually turn this into a 180-degree video that works on YouTube VR and Apple Vision Pro? Start by downloading the EOS VR Utility version 1.9 or above. Point it to your footage folder and it should immediately read and defish your clips correctly. Now, before you rush to export, go into RAW development. Spend some time here dialing in your RAW settings. When you are ready to export, I suggest ProRes. If you plan to color grade, go for ProRes 4444 MOV file to keep the full dynamic range of your RAW file. Format is 2D 180 unless you want to retrofit this into a 360 video. Size is 4096 or match input resolution. Now bring all your clips into DaVinci Resolve and edit like you would on any other VR 180 project. It will work in the standard VR 180 pipeline. Go into the Fusion page, right-click and select 360 view, VR 180, and you can look around like you would in Vision Pro or on YouTube. Everything you have learned from this channel about VR 180 editing still applies. No new tools, no workarounds. For your final export out of the DaVinci Resolve, I recommend MP4 H.265, leave the resolution as source, and restrict to 80,000 kbs on quality. This gives you the best quality on both YouTube VR and on Apple Vision Pro. If your client is Netflix, Apple or Amazon Prime, use ProRes 422 instead for the highest quality delivery. Now here's the thing. This exported file does not work on any platform just yet. You need spatial metadata. And that's where my Hugh Hou Spatial Injector comes in. We just updated it to version 1.3 to support Canon 180 video. The download link is below. It is 100% free. Drop your resource export into the app, pick monoscopic 180, the last option, and click Inject Google Spatial Metadata. The output file will be recognized by YouTube and displayed immersively. One important note, if your video is under 3 minutes, YouTube will actually turn it into an immersive short instead of a regular video. So make sure your video length is above 3 minutes. Now drop that output file back into my app. Step 2 will enable and let you convert it to APMP. This file plays natively on Apple Vision Pro with hardware acceleration, window view, or immersive view, all the good stuff. We cover a lot in this immersive 180 video, and there is more to come. In the next video, we will compare the Canon RF 7-14mm with the older EF 8-15mm and the new RAW RF Cine lens with a constant T2.9 aperture. And we are going beyond immersive to look at 2D fisheye filmmaking, 360 virtual tour, and all the creative use of this lens to help you get the most out of it. If you are new here and you want to explore the world of immersive storytelling, subscribe and follow this journey. We cover all the latest gear and techniques to help you become a successful immersive creator. And here's why I think that matters more than ever right now. Our world, immersive filmmaking is the only corner of this entire industry that is still safe from AI. AI cannot reach our resolution, AI does not understand immersive space, and the only way it would ever will is by stealing enough of our data to learn from it. So don't let it. Keep improving your craft, stay ahead of the curve. In this post-AI creative world, being in a space that AI cannot replicate is the only way to stay ahead. I will see you in the next immersive video, and I will give you more of Kimchi's superpowers. Ciao. You gotta look at the camera! Okay, let's step on this shit.